effect is like, it's a one-time thing, and it's like a lot of that, you're exposed to a lot of the pesticide in that one term, right? So like it's a spill, you spilled it on everybody, you splashed it in your eyes, somebody put it in a water bottle and you accidentally drank it, okay? So that's more acute. And so chronic is what? Yeah, it's a long term, so it's like a little bit of exposure over a long period of time. So you're exposed, but you don't really feel the effects until years later. Okay, where an acute effect, you would feel it right away. And so something that's category 1 or danger, something like this, the acute danger is more extreme, right? So Roundup is like a caution product, and so you could drink a cup of it and not really feel too many acute adverse effects. I mean, I don't recommend it. I think it probably tastes terrible, but it's not really that good for you. But it's not gonna cause, there's just a different level of acute toxicity there. So every pesticide, except for the category 4s, which there are not that many of them, okay? Just about every pesticide has a signal word, and it's gonna be on that front page. And so if you, front page of the label. And so sometimes on the container, the label on the container isn't all of these pages, right? It's like truncated information with a booklet that's attached to it. And so the stuff so you pull the booklet off, right, to get all the details. But the part of the label that stays on the container absolutely has to have this, okay? And so different pesticides can harm you in different ways. So right here we've got, what are the 4 different routes of exposure? Let me say, because I could talk about this forever. The different routes of exposure for humans are, so eyes, nose or inhalation, swallowing or mouth, and then skin. So skin absorption is the most common for humans because skin covers the majority of our body, right? So the probability that we'll absorb pesticides is higher because there's just so much more contact area, okay? So pesticides, if they're super toxic by one route versus the other, they could still be a danger product, like maybe it's not an inhalation hazard, but it's corrosive to your eyes, and that's what makes it danger. So it's all based on something called the LD50 or the LC50. So LD50 is lethal dose of half of the population. LC50 is the lethal concentration of half the population. So they basically do these studies on rats, and the amount of pesticide that these rats are exposed to, and it kills half of them, right? So that's how they measure toxicity in humans, okay? And so a smaller LD50 or smaller LC50 is much more toxic. So yeah, this is the signal word or the caution, so it's danger, warning, for caution. And so that's all about acute toxicity. So did you guys find some environmental hazards on this label?
Toxic to fish.
So this pesticide is toxic to fish, drift may be hazardous.
Stay in your house.
This is OMRI listed, so it's approved for certified organic production, but it's it's super toxic, okay? It's not super persistent or anything, but it's it's a danger pesticide, so call a poison control center or doctor immediately if you swallow this, right? So you can just imagine the impacts it might have on fish as well. So we get some information on the label about environmental hazards, and then on the instructions for use, it says do not use for residential areas, but that's more for human toxicity, right? And then there's some information here on spray drift management. Okay, and so wind speed, it gives you instructions on wind speed and droplet size. So this information is required. This information, it's not required on every label, but when it's super important to the effective use of that pesticide, then they'll put it on there. Especially because this is so toxic, you really don't want to have a situation where you have some spray drift. Okay, so it's telling us a medium or coarse spray, and that relates to very specific droplet size. So I think medium is the 240 microns, and then coarse is bigger than that. And VMD is how many, the mean diameter. So it's not every droplet is exactly the same size, but basically we want at least half of the droplets to be 240 microns, because it says medium. And I know what they relate to because I looked it up before. But anyway, so apply using a nozzle height of no more than 4 feet above the ground or crop canopy, right? So that's a drift reduction mechanism. And then there are some air blast applications that are allowed, and so it gives you some really good specific instructions on how. So it's not going. So not every label is going to tell you this, but on this one it does, because it's super toxic and we blast it out, and that's easy to drift, and so it's giving us some good instructions. And it even says temperature inversions. If applying at wind speeds less than 3 miles per hour, you have to determine if a temperature inversion exists or if stable atmospheric conditions exist at or below nozzle height. Do not make applications in areas of temperature inversions, or, so we don't want these things hanging out in low wind conditions. So here, even on this label, so I told you that the okay range was 2 to 10, but this label specifies 3. And so this is now the law for this particular pesticide application. So there are many other things that I could do with this label, but anyways, I just wanted to but I want you to leave on time. So I wanted to reiterate all the things that we talked about before. Do you guys, I can stick around for a few minutes if you guys have questions, but thanks for I really appreciated your participation. But which question did you find the most interesting to answer? Or which answer did you find the most interesting? Or what surprised you the most?
Human hazard.
It could
Human hazard.
I'm dying, yeah. That's the one that affects me the most, that it'll kill me.
Yeah.
I couldn't find the.
Okay.
I don't want
That's why if I made you look at personal protective equipment, then the handler is extremely well protected. You have to wear a lot of equipment, some chemical resistant materials to apply this pesticide. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did the word lime come into the